Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
In the headlines this Monday, November the 25th, Pope Francis reflects on how dialogue prevented war between Chile and Argentina 40 years ago. We mark the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. But first, the Pope urges young Holy Land peacemakers to keep hope alive. In the Vatican, I'm Linda Bordoni. Pope Francis on Monday told a group of young peacemakers from the Holy Land that nothing worth doing is easy and that peace building requires sacrifice and a willingness to recommit ourselves each day. He was meeting in the morning with a youth delegation from the Universal Peace Council. Joseph Tulloch reports.
On Monday morning, Pope Francis met with a youth delegation from the Universal Peace Council. He appealed to the participants, who came from different religious and cultural backgrounds, to place hope, dialogue and reconciliation at the heart of their work as great artisans of peace. The Pope praised the young delegates' commitment to peace in the Holy Land, which, he said, has once more been engulfed in the dark clouds of conflict. And he emphasised that young people can play a key role in the peace process because of their idealism. However, the Pope emphasised their task is not easy. And for this reason, he offered 3 brief points for reflection. The Pope emphasised that young people have the ability to heal old wounds and put aside prejudice. Young people remind us that a better world is possible, he said. At the same time, the Pope warned against the danger of ideology, saying that it hinders creativity and the will to do good. An unhealthy attachment to hurts and prejudices, the Pope stressed, can never lead to true and lasting peace. Dialogue is the only way to peace, the Pope emphasised, calling on young people to always seek closeness with others and mutual understanding. He went on to quote from his encyclical Fratelli Tutti, "Through dialogue, young people can become great artists of peace." In conclusion, the Pope spoke about the importance of hope, especially in the face of war, poverty and discrimination. Such problems, he said, may lead us to think that our engagement in dialogue is futile because it produces few concrete results. In moments where we are tempted by such thoughts, the Pope said, it is important to remember that anything worth doing is not easy. Worthwhile things require sacrifice and a willingness to recommit ourselves every day, particularly when things seem not to go our way. And bringing his speech to a close, the Pope urged his audience to always keep hope alive. I'm Joseph Tulloch.
The 40th anniversary of a landmark treaty of peace and friendship signed by Chile and Argentina gave Pope Francis the occasion today to renew his impassioned appeal for peace and dialogue in today's world, ravaged by war. The treaty, signed on the 29th of November 1984, ended a long-standing border dispute which had escalated to the brink of conflict. As Lisa Zengarini reports, attending the ceremony in the Vatican to commemorate that anniversary, the Pope again denounced what he called the hypocrisy of several countries, calling for peace while investing in arms.
In his address to the ceremony, Pope Francis recalled the crucial role played by St. John Paul II, along with the bishops of both nations, in finding a peaceful solution to their dispute based on justice and international law, which excludes the use of force, and highlighted the importance of celebrating the treaty's anniversary as a reminder of the power of peace and dialogue. The agreement can serve as a model for conflict resolution today, he said, reiterating that ongoing armed conflicts worldwide require the international community to prioritise peaceful negotiations. The Pope also reflected on the importance of cultivating human friendship, which springs from our friendship with God, to address the injustices, violence and inequality that continue to fuel conflicts. Reiterating his gratitude to God for saving Chile and Argentina from war, the Pope expressed his hope that the spirit of encounter and concord between nations seeking peace may favour the multiplication of initiatives and policies aimed at resolving the numerous social and environmental crises that affect the world. Again, the Pope insisted on the 1984 treaty's significance as a timeless example of how patient negotiation and compromise can lead to peaceful solutions, and extended his hope for the spirit of peace and friendship to influence international efforts to resolve current conflicts. At the same time, he lamented what he termed as the hypocrisy of several countries which talk about peace while investing in arms. This hypocrisy, he said, always leads us to failure, the failure of fraternity and the failure of peace. I am Lisa Zengarini.
Also on Monday, the Pope reiterated the Holy See's commitment to a mine-free world, emphasising once again that conflicts are always a failure to humanity. His words came in a message to a summit on landmines taking place in Cambodia. The Siem Reap Angkor Summit on a mine-free world kicks off today in Siem Reap, marking 25 years of the Ottawa Convention, an agreement on the prohibition of the use, stockpiling, production and transfer of anti-personnel mines. Francesca Merlo reports on the message sent by Pope Francis through the Holy See's permanent observer to the UN, Archbishop Ettore Balestrero.
Pope Francis has reiterated the Holy See's commitment to fighting for a world that continues to strive for the abolition of weapons, including anti-personnel mines. In a message delivered to representatives of various states, international organizations and civil society, the Pope acknowledged the history of the international efforts relating to disarmament, stressing how this convention demonstrates how multilateralism can be successful and fit for purpose. However, Pope Francis expressed sorrow that still, 25 years later, anti-personnel landmines and victim-activated explosive devices continue to be used. Conflicts, he said, are a failure of humanity to live as a single human family. He noted how landmines continue to silently claim innocent lives long after hostilities have ceased, especially those of children. The Pope lamented that the number of these innocent victims has been increasing in recent years. He stressed that when this occurs, it is evident that all of humanity loses. He urged all nations that have yet to join the convention to do so without delay, calling for an immediate cessation of the production and use of landmines. For those already party to the treaty, he encouraged renewed commitment and urgency in its implementation. Any delay, he stressed, will inevitably increase the human cost. In recognizing this human cost, Pope Francis also recognized all those who risk their lives in clearing mines and the many organizations dedicated to helping victims and their families. He stressed that the Catholic Church remains determinedly committed to assisting victims and to contributing to global peace. Finally, Pope Francis invoked God's blessing upon all, so that this conference, inspired by the noble objective of the Convention, may become an important step towards a world free of landmines and ensure truly integral and restorative assistance to victims. I'm Francesca Merlo.
Here in the Vatican, Pope Francis welcomed an international delegation of Jains. Their meeting came in as part of meetings at the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue to study ways to work together for a better world marked by friendship, solidarity and peace. The Pope also asked everyone to pray in particular for the head of that dicastery, Cardinal Ayuso, who died in hospital on Monday morning following a long illness. Thaddeus Jones has this report.
The Institute of Genealogy in London brought the international group together for meetings focusing on issues regarding diversity and inclusion. Their meeting is part of the decades-old and growing dialogue between Jains and Christians, promoted by the Vatican's Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue, working together on ways to build a better future for our world. In his address to the group, the Pope asked them to work together to find ways to care for the earth, the poor, the most vulnerable in society, increasingly important in our times, the Pope pointed out, calling for a shared commitment and responsibility in dealing with them. He described how many of the modern-day problems society grapples with are due to individualism and indifference that lead to disregarding the dignity and rights of others, especially in multicultural settings. And while, unfortunately, there are groups that intimidate and exclude minorities, others instead constructively promote friendship, solidarity, and lasting peace, the Pope noted. And he encouraged everyone to persevere in constructive efforts and initiatives that foster a sense of humanity in believers and in all. The Pope said this persevering commitment to fraternal dialogue is based on the fact that it is God who has created all human beings equal in rights, duties, and dignity, and who's called them to live together as brothers and sisters. I'm Thaddeus Jones.
And Pope Francis met with professors and staff of the John Paul II Pontifical Theological Institute for Marriage and Family Sciences. He urged Catholic universities to research how different cultures view marriage, saying the Church seeks to accompany families on their path to holiness. Devon Watkins reports.
Meeting with professors and staff of the John Paul II Pontifical Theological Institute for Marriage and Family Sciences on Monday, Pope Francis upheld the centrality of the family in the Church's life. We know how decisive marriage and family are for the life of peoples, he said. The Church has always cared for them, supported them, and evangelized them. The Pope lamented that there are countries where public authorities do not respect the dignity and freedom to which every human being has an inalienable right as a child of God. This attitude, he added, results in restrictions that weigh most heavily on women, often confining them to subordinate roles. Rather than erasing the difference between man and woman in response, said the Pope, the Church teaches that there can be no discrimination between the two, since all belong to Christ and are part of God's plan of salvation. Pope Francis went on to note that the gospel of the family is founded on the sacrament of marriage, which provides a path for people of all cultures to grow in holiness. Culture, said Pope Francis, is closely linked to people's view of marriage and family, saying the gospel must be enculturated while still evangelizing culture. The JP2 Pontifical Theological Institute can contribute to this mission, he said, by helping the Church understand how different societies and cultures view marriage and family. May the Institute, he concluded, support spouses and families in their mission worldwide and help them to be witnesses of fidelity, service, and openness to life. I'm Devon Watkins.
And finally, marking the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, the UN launches the Unite campaign to combat global atrocities against women. Florina Joseph has more.
The 25th of November marks the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. Despite progress in various societies, violence against women remains one of the most pervasive human rights violations across the globe. Globally, nearly 1 in 3 women has experienced physical and sexual violence committed by intimate partners, other men, or both at least once in their lifetime. Women continue to face intensified violence in multiple environments, including workplaces and online spaces. In 2023 alone, UN reports revealed that 51,100 women lost their lives to gender-based violence. The data further highlights that a woman is killed every 10 minutes as a result of such violence. In response to these alarming developments, the UN emphasizes the need for robust action to hold perpetrators accountable. This includes implementing well-resourced strategies and adequately funding women's rights movements. Beginning Monday, the UN has launched the Unite campaign, a 16-day initiative that concludes on December 10th, marking the International Human Rights Day. The campaign calls for global action to end violence against women and girls. I'm Sister Florina Joseph, SCN.
That brings us to the end of this edition of Vatican and World News. You can join us tomorrow at the same time for more. You can also visit our homepage at vaticannews.va and follow us on Facebook, X and Instagram. My thanks go to Daniele Giorgi in studio. In the Vatican, I'm Linda Bordoni. Bye-bye.